Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joel Tool and Love, here with your AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts review. Now, for May 5th, 2021, hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. Now, before I get into the review, I'm going to touch on it for a little bit first because I'll get into the match later, and because it was the main focus of tonight's show or last night's show. The Blood and Guts match, aka AEW's version of War Games, was a amazing match delivered to me. The match delivered and more. I mean, it was violent, it was chaotic, it was brutal. It had everything that you would have expected going into the match. Now, the ending of the match was, let's be honest, it was disappointing. Pretty much disappointing, and again to it. But seeing MJF throw Chris Jericho off the top of the cage through the stage area, and for there be only black mattresses. I mean, look, I get it. You gotta protect the talent. You can't expect them to be thrown into all concrete or whatever, but they could have shot better. I'll say that. They could have shot better, or they could have made it a different ending per se, but those are my first thoughts on Blood and Guts. I'll get into the match later of it all, but those are my thoughts. Nonetheless, if you're new to the podcast, if you like AEW, you want to hear more, like and subscribe. Thank you all, and let's get into the full review now, shall we? But Blood Guts, it was a fun show in totality. First of all, good news. So Double or Nothing, which AEW's next pay-per-view, which is going to take place on the 30th, May 30th, in Daly's Place. Will have full capacity. Full capacity at Daly's Place, which is roughly around 5,500, which good news as far as AEW is concerned, and with the news that they're going to be touring again in the summer. It's good news. We're slowly getting back to normal AEW aesthetics and all, like how we were before March. Well, a little bit March. I believe we had two shows with full crowds a year and a half ago in March, but Yeah, obviously since the pandemic, I mean, we've had up to maybe 1,000 fans. I heard there was up to half last night in Dave's place, so that's good news. Also, news about Double or Nothing. As expected, Britt Baker will face Kawashita for the AEW Women's Championship, and it looks as of tonight, or as of last night, we got two other big top matches going into that event. So the show started off with Michael Nakazawa first hit, and Kenny Omega first Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. So first, Nakazawa and Don Callis came out and addressed the crowd that was there. Callis said that Omega didn't show up, that he wasn't present. So he said Nakazawa would be going at it alone. So then A. Kingston and Jon Moxley came out, and they were blindsided by Kenny Omega and the crowd. And then the match took place. They got in the ring, and it was short, but it did what it needed to do, basically. Good that we just saw Nakazawa being beaten up and not any of his crazy antics, anything like that. But this was mostly just the 2-on-1 advantage, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston being up Nakazawa, and eventually Omega left and Nakazawa was pinned after a half Nelson suplex lariat combination by Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston for the win. Afterwards, the Good Brothers came out and attacked Moxley and Kingston after they were distracted by the Young Bucks, who were wearing some weird attire. Tony Schiavone said that Matt Jackson was wearing someone's shower curtains, which made me laugh a little. But so this point on, it was just a big beatdown of Jon Moxley and Kingston. The Bucks chimed in, and then Omega came out with Brandon Cutler, who is their personal photographer or filmer. Then Omega landed a one-winged angel on Kingston, and it kind of figures with considering that because we have the four-way number one contenders match later in the evening, and the winners face the Bucks next week, that it's likely that we're going to get Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus the Young Bucks for tag team titles at Double or Nothing, which interesting match. It prolongs the feud, and I would not mind the match one bit. I think I would like to see Moxley and Kingston get a couple more wins as a team. Now we still have, because it's the 6th, So we still have a little more than 3 weeks till Double or Nothing. So that's plenty of time to get some more momentum under the belt of John Moxley and Kingston. But looks to be a heck of a match lined up. So then we had Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall. I still don't know why Cody Rhodes still has the Snoop Dogg remix mashup of his theme music is not as good as his original. I don't know why, but nonetheless. So, match being built because Cody attacked QT Marshall last week out of the Nightmare Family bus. This match was okay. Again, just not really interested in it because the whole dynamic and with QT Marshall and Cody, I mean, it's just it did what it needed to. I'll say that. So Cody tried to nail Marshall with his weight belt, but Bryce Ransford, who's the referee, took it away. And then Marshall, who had a belt as well, attacked Cody with it behind the referee's back, or while Cody was dealing with the referee. So then, getting into the match, Marshall hit a crossroads for a near fall. Cody hit a tombstone pile driver for a 2 count. Cody then hit a crossroads, which for a near fall of his own. I mean, Cody's crossroads is not being really well protected these days, I would say. Because it seems like everyone's kicking out of it, basically. Or at least from what I've seen. And then Cody locked on figure 4. Then Marshall tapped out. Then after the match, Anthony One Punch a Go-Go returned. Came out and hit Cody Rhodes with his body shot. Then covered Cody with the British flag. And it was a weird ending to this match, I'd say. It seems like a Go-Go, all he's worth is 1 punch. I get it, he's a boxer. At the same time, we're in pro wrestling and it's been like a month. And all he does is 1 punch. Which, never mind. So, then we had Britt Baker versus Julia Hart. As I mentioned earlier, Britt Baker is going to face Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. Rebel has been on a crutch for what seems to be forever. Britt Baker face off against Joey Hart here. Again, nothing much. Just get Britt some more momentum going into Double or Nothing. She locked on the lockjaw. And pretty much self-explanatory. Britt Baker riding high, whether it's Elevation, AEW Dark, or Dynamite. We are looking at our future AEW Women's Champion come Double or Nothing. So then we had the four-way number one contenders tag team match for the tag team titles. So we had the top four ranked teams in AEW, which I checked the rankings apparently. So we had the Varsity Blondes versus SCU versus Jurassic Express versus the Acclaimed. I mean, talk about when I look at this match, when you look at the lineup, it's pretty cool to see the evolution of AEW's tag team division. Sort of how it's gotten better. And you have SCU and Jurassic Express, who are two of the veteran tag teams who have been there since day one. And you have Varsity Blondes and the Acclaimed, who are two young tag teams, still fairly new in the division, which is good to see. I missed some of this match, but it was kind of explanatory to see who was going to win this. So, Pillman tried to roll up Frank Kazarian for a near fall. That was a 9. But in the end, the SCU hit the best Meltzer ever, being me, for the win. And thus, SCU will face the Young Bucks next week for the tag team titles. That stipulation has still been put into effect that if even JR mentioned it on commentary a couple times that if SCU doesn't win the tag team titles, they are finished as a team. So, and I don't think that SCU is going to win next week. So, I'm curious to see how they're going to build that up. But, yeah, so we'll see. So then we had the announcement for Kenny Omega's Double or Nothing opponent. So, Kenny Omega was out there, Tony Schiavone was out there, Michael Nakazawa, he carried around the rest of Omega's championships. So, really simple. Tony Schiavone announced that next week it'll be Pac versus Orange Cassidy. And the winner will face Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing. Now, Omega, he was dismissing Orange Cassidy. He talked about Pac, talked about how they faced each other before, how Pac beat Omega at All Out 2 years ago. So he was like, let's just make it official. Pac versus Omega at Double or Nothing. So then Tony Schiavone was like, Pac or Orange Cassidy. So Orange Cassidy came out next to Tony Schiavone, and then Omega was stuttering. He was like really brushing off Orange Cassidy, and Omega talked to Orange Cassidy, saying how he's seen people dress as Orange Cassidy. He talks about how Orange Cassidy is relatable to all the fans. How many people could be like you, but not many people could be like me. So, really breathing his own air, or promoting his own ego, building himself up. And he said that the one thing that you saw for me is the Shades gimmick. So, of course, if you'll recall back in when Omega was in the Bullet Club, the original Bullet Club in New Japan, that Omega wore shades a lot. So anyway, he took off Orange Cassidy's shades, put them on Nakazawa, and Kane was like, yeah, those look better on Nak. And he looks more like a champion than you do. So, then there was that, and Kenny Omega and Nakazawa left. So, here's the other thing. So, as I mentioned, it sounded like there was half of Dale's place filled last night, and you could hear a big reaction for Orange Cassidy. Now, Orange Cassidy has been one of those wrestlers that has been most affected by a lack of a live crowd. It's a fact with this gimmick. And hearing that reaction last night when he came out, it reminded you, and it gave you a realization as to, okay, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy at Double or Nothing. That will be a heck of a match, and with full capacity at Double or Nothing, that is going to be really good. Now, I don't expect, obviously, Orange Cassidy to win, but ultimately, Orange Cassidy is going to be a filler for when we get to Kenny Omega versus Hangman later this year, and that is when we really get the dicey matchup when Hangman gets his redemption. But nonetheless, Double or Nothing, Kenny Omega or Cassidy, sign me up. So then next we had, well, before I get into Blood Guts, the match, we had Miro come out, and he had a contract with him. He talked to Tony Schiavone and announced that next week he has a match with Darby Allin, provided Darby can participate, because early in the show he suffered an attack by Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. So, another interesting match. We got an interesting lineup for next week with Young Bucks versus SCU, Darby Allin versus Miro. Cody Rhodes makes his announcement. I mean, it's going to be a heck of a next week on Dynamite. So, now getting into the caveat of the show, Blood Guts. I had over a page of notes because that's how long and that's how good this match was. So, now getting into it. So, of course, there were the 2 cages set up with the ring the rings engulfed in the cage. So the Pinnacle came out first. It was funny. They were dressed in white, giving that vibe like the good guys were white, even though they're not the good guys in this case. And then the Inner Circle came out. I came back right as they were finishing their entrance. They were dressed up and the overalls, like, they were dressed like prisoners, basically, which another added element which you liked about this match because the cage, all of it. So, and Ortiz and Santana had this great face paint on them. It was just great. So, then we get. So, Sammy Guevara, he said that he would start for the Inner Circle, and Dax Harwood, he started off for the Pinnacle. And I don't think with the way they orchestrated who is coming out, it was certainly the best order, I think, when you look at it. So, Sammy Guevara, Dax Harwood started. They both started up on the opposite ends of both rings. So, it was another great visual seeing them both on opposite rings. So, Sammy died from the first ring to the other ring onto Dax and really took it to him to start the match. It was a hectic way to start the match, but yeah, so Guevara got his offense in. They were fighting on the top of the ring or top rope. So, but Dax got thrown. They were fighting. Dax hit a spinebuster, which stopped Sammy in his tracks, and went for a pin instinctively, but with the rules, can't really start a decision until all 10 members are in the ring or in the match. So Dax was looking at the referees on the outside, confused. So then the cage came into play quickly. Guevara slammed Dax into the cage. Went for a springboard cutter on Dax. Nice spot. And then next came in Shawn Spears with a chair. provide the chairman. So he took it. Sammy hit a chair shot over Sammy's head. Dax was busted open. He hit sky high, Spears hit sky high on Sammy. And then next came Ortiz, who came in like a house on fire with chairs. He threw chairs into the face of Spears and Dax. So then he got the advantage, and then Cash Wheeler came out next. He helped out with partner Dax Harwood. So they assisted Brainbuster, and Cash, with another good spot, he did a gory special, but threw Ortiz in the cage with Tom sandwiched in between the cage and the ring. As you expect, Santana was checking on his partner. But then Santana came in next and tried to even the odds for the Inner Circle. He was throwing everyone into the cage. But then Wardlow came in. There were commercial breaks during this match, and I was thinking to myself because there was a commercial break when Wardlow came in the match, and then there was like a stall because all the three other members of the Pinnacle were down, and Wardlow was taunting Santana Ortiz, like, come on, and Sammy, like, taking him on, and I was just thinking, okay, we're in commercial. Wait. But, yeah. Nice spot. Actually, a spot I meant to go over early in the match, but Sammy Guevara was the MVP of this match, basically. There was a spot where Spears and Sammy were both on the top ropes of each respective ring, and Ortiz threw a chair and Spears' backside, and Spears went to the ropes of the ring of the ropes that Sammy was on, and Sammy hit a beautiful top rope Spanish fly on Spears. So that spot, and then so Wardlow was taking on all three competitors of the Inner Circle. He threw Sammy into the cage. Then Hager arrived. He tried to even the odds, got his licks in. He had a bit of a stare off with Wardlow as, of course, the two big bulls of the match. They had an exchange against the cage. And then MJF came into the fray. Spears hit C4. And then Wardlow hit a chop block on Hager, which stifled him. MJF was talking trash to Jericho, looking macho, and then Jericho came in, and then they rung the bell, and it's where the match officially began. So they both sides regrouped. They stood in their respective rings, and then all of a sudden they just ran toward each other, and a big brawl ensued. And as you expect, Jericho then used the bat. Floyd got the advantage. And then Santana Ortiz, they exposed the wood of the ring. Santana Ortiz kind of payback with Sammy Guevara. They hit 2 spike pile drivers on FTR. Cash Wheeler, he was busted open. Jeez. The violence and the blood certainly showed up. So, Colt Breaker by Jericho. And then another great spot by Sammy Guevara. I didn't see where the chair, or who was setting up the chair, but it looked like Dax Harwood was set up in the Tree of Woe position, and chair was set up. Sammy went coast to coast, and nailed Dax Harwood in the face with the chair. Another great spot. Then MJF, he was busted up as well. He was set up in a camel clutch-like position, and Santana had a fork and landed a shot to MJF's face, and he licked the fork. Real spot. Weird spot. So, as I mentioned, MJF was busted open. Cash was having his face grinded into the steel. Wardlow tried to get the advantage back for his team, but was stopped in his tracks due to the numbers game. A beautiful chair shot to Wardlow's head, taken out by a big clothesline by Hager. Then Tully knocked out Bryce Rensburg. He got the key because the only ones who had the keys to the doors were Bryce Rensburg on the Pinnacle side and Aubrey Edwards, who had the key to the Inner Circle side. So, totally knocked out Bryce Rensburg. He got the key, opened up the door to the Pinnacle side, thus allowing MJF to escape. He climbed to the top of the cage. Then Jericho noticed, and this when the match kind of got a little out of there, kind of critiquing. The reason why I say that is because, I'm guessing because it was commercial break, and so Jericho was following MJF up to the top of the cage, and thus there was that, and we didn't really see much of anyone else of the match until the end of the match, which is kind of iffy because we didn't see what was going on. we just saw MJF and Jericho. But if you're going to nitpick, that was that. So Jericho followed up, or Jericho and MJF were fighting on top of the cage. Jericho locked down the walls of Jericho on MJF, but MJF had a low blow on the Jericho, locked it in the salty earth, but Jericho didn't tap. Then tried everything, tried biting his arm, tried stomping on his arm, slamming it against the cage. But Jericho was not give up. Then he had the Dynamite Diamond ring then in his trunks, took it out and landed Jericho in the face with the Dynamite Diamond ring. And then they were near the edge of the cage, and the next thing you know, the light bulb goes off in the head of MJF. He's looking around and he's like, probably like, what else can I do to try to get them to submit or surrender? So they were near the edge, and because they were all tied up in the ring, so finally Hager and Guevara noticed, and they were in the ring, or Sammy was outside the ring. Ortiz and Santana tried to climb up the scaffold, tried to do what they could, but so MJF was like, if you don't surrender, I'm going to throw him off the cage. So then Sammy got out of the cage, but it was too late. So Sammy said, we surrender to try to save Jericho. So the Inner Circle surrendered to save their brethren. And then, like the snake that MJF is, he threw Jericho off the cage already, or even though they surrendered. He threw him off the cage, landed through the stage area, which, as many people could see, was filled with black mats below to protect Jericho. And the Inner Circle was shocked. They could not believe that what happened to Jericho. They were checking on Jericho. And then next thing you know, you see MJF on top of this cage. He said thank you, because that's what he said. He would say thank you to Jericho once it was all over. So there's that. You saw MJF on top of the cage, and then you saw the Pinnacle on the stage area, and that was pretty much how Dynamite went off the air. A couple of critiques, I'll say, besides the ending. So, the other thing is, once MJF and Jericho got to the top of the cage, you didn't see anyone else. And I said that before, but I'll say it again. That was all we saw. We only saw them. And we didn't see what happened. And with the other guys, and just confusing. And we didn't see the Pinnacle together at the end of the match, which was strange. And another thing is, I'm not sure if Tully locked the door or the door was locked or whatever happened, but wouldn't the Inner Circle have kind of thought to try to go up to the top of the cage and try to protect Jericho? That was just another thought, but again, if you're nitpicking, but nonetheless, it was a great match, violent match, brutal. Anything you'd hope it'd be as far as the match is concerned. Nonetheless, I would expect AEW to have their biggest rating coming out from this week. We'll see about that, but nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoy it. I know I did. Like and subscribe. Thank you. This is great episode and good episode to look forward to next week. So thank you all. See you next week and peace. And be safe.